Hey wild ones, it's Bernadette. I am hanging out in my backyard and I felt like it was the right time to share the manatee story, and I'm listening to the birds all around me. You can see the part of the protected wetland that's behind me with all the rains that came through in Florida a few days ago. Oh my gosh, the crazy amount of water it dropped. The little creek behind me is full and we're getting a lot more rains. It's taken me just a little bit to figure out how to share this story with you all, because it's going to be going out on a limb what I'm going to be telling you and presenting to the world, because once you post something on the internet, it lives forever. But I'm going to make a very bold claim, and that is this. I have visual proof that animal communication is real and animal communication works, and I know that you can do it too. And I know a number of very fine, very ethical animal communicators, and I know that it's real. I communicate with animals all the time, mostly because, I'm a psychic, evidential medium, shamanic journeyer, practitioner, and I communicate with animals, which are humans, and I communicate with humans, which are animals that have crossed over. And I've done my fair share of like what people think is pure animal communication, which is, to a tiger or a cat or a dog or now manatees. But I have not ever put a video out of it before and made the claim that it's proof positive that animal communication works. So, long story short, you all know I've been leading up to going on this manatee dive, but what you don't know is this. I've shared with you guys that I have a number of autoimmune issues, but I never really go into it. One of them is a very rare muscle myopathy that left me pretty much not able to walk in 2019, and that whole episode where I almost died, the whole 9 yards. So I haven't been cleared until really the week before the manatee dive. Literally the week before, I was not cleared to do any kind of exercise, anything, muscle building, anything, because of the further damage that it might do. And I'm an action person. I like to be out and about. I like to walk. Movement is life, and I love movement, right? So it's been very hard for me emotionally, and physically, it's definitely taken its toll. So this dive I did, I really should just say masking and snorkeling in Crystal River in 34-degree weather with manatees, with giant animals that you don't know what they're going to do. So in the weeks leading up to the dive, or in swimming with the manatees, I sent my consciousness over to Crystal River and just kind of let it roll all up the river where I figured we would be going to see the manatees, or see if we could see manatees. And I just started talking to all the manatees. I sent the word out. I sent out, what day I was coming. Could just one of you please interact with me, so that I wanted to have the experience. I wanted to meet face to face with a manatee. I've done so many times psychically, like with all the animals that are in danger. And by the way, I need to stand corrected. Manatees are no longer on the endangered list, but they are on the critical list. So all of that being said, I do a lot of psychic energy work with the animals of the planet. And that means the human animals of the planet who are making it, and do make it, so very painful and tragic and difficult for the other animals on our planet. So I just wanted one to come up to us, even for the briefest of seconds. And I know that manatees greet each other by touching noses, and I didn't even, for some reason in my mind, I thought, well, that's the dream. Let's ask. But, listen, that's the dream, and it probably, maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. Me of all people, I'm so sorry. I apologize to y'all. That's just not like me. I'm the can-do Disney lady. I'm like, if it pops into your consciousness, then there's a reason for it. And, let's do it. All your wishes can come true, right? All that being said, it was dark. It was cold. The wind chill factor had it like 29. I'll look like I'll look like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Lady in those 2 wetsuits, but the wetsuit that I bought to go on this, on this dive, when I got to the place and they were like, you will freeze. You won't be in that water 2 seconds. You'll be back out. So I put another one of their wetsuits over my wetsuit, and that put me at 7 mils. And it makes it, it makes it really hard to maneuver because you have such buoyancy. So I felt in fairness to the people that were with me, because I chartered a private tour, and I did so because if anything should have happened to me, if there were some emergent situation or whatever, I didn't want it ruining someone else's time. And I wanted to be able to do this at my leisure, at my pace, how my body, not knowing how my body would react and not knowing what would go on. So it was just me and my dear friend that is always kind enough to bring the camera, help me out on these shenanigans. And the guide, which is Lindsay, who you'll see a picture of me just hugging the snot out of her. And you'll learn a little bit more about her, because it was no coincidence that Lindsay happened to be the one who was in the water, with me that day. Because, of course, everybody that does these boat tours over in Crystal River, and you go look at manatees or you look at scallops or sea turtles or whatever, you've got to have a certified diver, a certified lifeguard, emergent responder, that kind of thing. Makes sense. I learned that people go on these tours not even being able to swim. And I'm like, what are they doing in a boat trying to get in the water and not being able to swim? Like, that's a terrible liability. But anyway, so as it turns out, the boat captain, Captain John has either MS or muscular dystrophy. One of the two, I've forgotten now. But when I explained to them what was going on, I noticed he didn't really say anything, but he went on full attention, and he asked me questions that an everyday person without the medical knowledge would ask. So it was clear to me he had some kind of experience or knowledge with this. And I thought, I have been put in the best hands I could ever have been put in. So when we got in the water, when we got to where we were going, thankfully, there was only one other boat out that morning. And during non-COVID pandemic times in the cold, there can be as many as 20 or 30 boats in these areas trying to take their patrons, their customers, to see manatees. And as I understand it, people get to see them, but getting in the water and having them come to you happens an extremely small percentage of the time. But I knew that our best odds would be when there were so few other people around, because the other boat only had a family of 4, and the captain and the the guide. So all of a sudden, when we anchored, they went, man, that wind just died down, just died. And they're looking around, and I looked at my friend that was with me, and I winked, and she winked back at me. And they were all concerned. They were like, okay, listen, you just got to take the plunge. You've just got to, once you get down the ladder, just go in, take a deep breath, hold, go in. And I just knew it wouldn't be cold. It would be okay. So I went in the water. And the water is 72 degrees all year round. So certainly it's much warmer than the outside, but even the outside didn't feel cold to me. It was like somebody had just warmed up that area of Crystal River just for us. It was crazy. Well, we hadn't been in the water a minute, and Captain John said, manatees to the front. And so we turned around, and I put my mask down. I put my head under the water as much as I could. And here come the 2 most ginormous manatees headed straight for us. And all I could do was look in their faces and look in their eyes. And I had to catch myself because I was just so overcome with their gentleness and their innocence. So I just floated there, and I thought, I'm just going to be still. And I looked to my left, and Lindsay was just floating just like me. And one manatee looked at her, and one manatee looked at me, and they dipped their heads, and they simply gently dove under us. And that's the picture that you see here with me and the manatee pretending we're the Pisces symbol, right? They just went under as quiet and gentle as could be. And then we heard, manatees to the right. So we turned to the right, and we went over near the buoys, because in each where the manatees collect in the river, there's always a safe zone where they can get away from people and boats and that kind of thing in these tours. So Lindsay and I hadn't been by the buoys for maybe 2 minutes, and something bumped me, and I turned around and I looked, and there was a manatee. So I put my mask down, and Lindsay put her mask down, and she looked, and I thought, I just have to touch them. And you're not supposed to put 2 hands on them, because there are all kinds of things, rules about you can't hug a manatee, you can't make them feel trapped, you can't try to like grab them by a fin or a flipper and try to move them around, things that people should know, but they don't. But I was like, okay, one hand is fine. So I ran my hand up and down what turned out to be a male, up and down his back very gently. And all the algae released, and I could see some scaly stuff release in the water. He flipped over on his back, and in my head, I went, he wants a belly rub. So I rubbed his belly in there. He stayed. Well, then up behind him comes another manatee, and she's looking to see what's going on. So he just went on about his merry business. He wanted 1 or 2 belly rubs, and he went on his merry way. Well, she came, and she stayed, and she nuzzled us, and she put her head in our, in the crook of our neck, and just gently wanted to be there. And I rubbed her back, and she turned over on her belly for belly rubs. And then she started nibbling at my mask, and, she went over and she nibbled Lindsay's hair, and she reached out with a flipper to try to touch. And, I'm going through all the logical things in my mind, right? Because I'm a very, very, very skeptical Scorpio, even about my own abilities, even about everything that I teach is true, preach is true, the benediction. I know it to be true. I know it. I talked to those manatees for a few weeks, and I said, if just one. And so I called to see manatees, but I called for just one to go nose to nose with me, to meet me on a deeply personal level so that you all could meet him or her also. And darn if it didn't happen. And darn if it didn't happen within minutes of us being there. When I got in the boat after the whole experience, and I was asking the people who have, Captain John's been there for 10 years, and Lindsay's been there for 6 or 7 years, like they know. And they're like, no, that happens once or twice. That maybe 8 or 9 times in a season. But it doesn't happen regularly. That was I asked them, I was like, listen, y'all, this is why I'm doing this. I need you to be honest with me about this. I'm not trying to feel special or be special. I have people who depend on me to tell them the truth and connect them with these animals. And they took that really seriously. So I asked and the animals answered. And I asked on behalf of myself. I asked on behalf of you all, my wild ones, and it happened. And that really is the story in a nutshell, except for to sing the praises of the people at the plantation, resort and their tours, their adventure tours, because I felt like I was a rock star. I got in the boat. The first thing I was handed was a bottle of warm water to warm my hands. They asked me, did I want coffee and one person said, do you want coffee or? And I turned around and John was handing me hot chocolate. He said, you look like a hot chocolate girl. I went, oh my God, I don't drink coffee. I want to, I just don't, for a variety of reasons. And then as we were driving back, and they were like, you got the manatee magic. And I was like, because I was just so stunned I could barely speak, and all I could do was just take everything in, because I was able to swim. The strength that I had just being energized by the whole experience, the whole psychic, your mind and your body connection and whatever, you guys already know all about that. But it was a big experience for me that day. And I'm just so very grateful to my own body, to my own spirit. I'm grateful to the spirits of the land, and definitely to the manatee kingdom. I just have been in such a place of gratitude. I just want you to know, again, it's a bold claim, and it's a bold claim to make in a video, but I believe, and beliefs are not facts, but these are my beliefs, so they matter to me. I believe that animal communication has been proven in this video, because I got exactly what I asked for under challenging circumstances, the weather, me with my, not having been in the water before or been out doing really anything that it required real muscle movement or mobility. And it was just so, having the boat captain that also has a muscle, issue. So he's very sensitive to it. He understands it. Meeting up with Lindsay, she's also a psychic, just all of the things that fell into place, even up to where we stayed was off of a road called Kings Boulevard. Okay, my name is King. You guys know that. My last name is King. And so many other things we were driving. I can't, we were in a lot of, we just couldn't stop and turn around and take the pictures, but we drove as we were driving home, I was talking to my friend about the new card deck that I have coming out this year that's going to match the Arc Animal Tarot and Oracle deck, meaning you could blend these cards in with it if you wanted to use them, but it's also its own standalone deck. And she said 2 words, and I just let me just say the word children and story. That's all I'm going to say. And that's probably too much, but I'm going to say it. And on my mother's, we call it our mother's river, because our mom wanted to be cremated and have her ashes dumped in the Rainbow River in Denellen, Florida, which we did, which is not supposed to be done in the state of Florida. That's a no-no. But we did. And so I always say on my mom's river, when I'm really like for real about something, I say on my mom's river, as it was out of her mouth and the words, the resonance, the vibration of her words was still in the air, she and I turned around and looked, because there were these 2 humongous signs that read Children's Story Hour at some program they have going over in Williston, Florida, or one of the little tiny towns over that way. And, everywhere around it was a cow pasture except for this one little building. And it wasn't a library. I don't even know what this building was. And I almost wrecked the car. I had to pull over for a minute and gather myself, because that was another sign from the spirit animals that I'm going in the right direction with this deck for you all, because there's never been a deck like this ever. It's like the Arc Animal Tarot and Oracle deck. It's broken new ground for everything, like in so many different ways, in the tarot community, the Oracle community, the animal community. And this new deck is the same. And the book, that I have coming out, it's there's never been a book this expansive. It's, I did have to pare it down from 333 animals to 300, just because of book size and all that kind of thing. But that's still, it's like way more than anybody else has done. And the descriptions are more in depth, the whole 9 yards. And I often wonder if I'm doing the right thing, because when you all visit my website and when you buy, the products, the Arc, and then the book, and then the new deck and whatever, that helps animals in ways that you don't know. I don't blab about the things that I do for animals. I will never blab about the things I do for animals. I always ask everybody to do good for animals, do more for animals. But I'm the first person to take my own advice. And so I always want to do more and more and more, and give more and more and more, and help the consciousness raise. I know you all are animal lovers. I know every one of you are. I know you are, but there will be people that will see videos and they'll get the cards, and they won't be as deep in a relationship maybe as they could be, or maybe that they have the sense that they want to be. And I hope to help people bridge that gap. And by creating these products and creating a site for you all to visit and get free information and whatever, that will help you to help others. And, you see how it's all going. But again, I'm going to say for the 3rd time, I feel like this is proof that animal communication is real. Telepathic communication with animals is a real thing, and that you can communicate with any animal. It doesn't just have to be your own bird or cat or dog or iguana or snake or whatever you may have. Goats, chickens, whatever, pigs, horses. It doesn't have to be with just that animal. We're all connected. And if you're specific about sending your consciousness to where those animals are, gosh knows what you can experience. So I love you all so much, so much. And I thank you for all of your support, for supporting me, for supporting my channel, for supporting my sites, for supporting the Arc. But mostly I love you because doing that helps support the animals. And I know you do it in your own way, separate of all of these things that have to do with me. And I just am so very grateful to you for doing so. So, what my greatest wish for all of you is, and today it's more that wish than it ever has been. So through your day, see if you can communicate telepathically with any animal you want, and that includes humans. Maybe you want to communicate telepathically with another human, but today would be a great day to do that. So again, I love you, and stay wild.